life.
He still takes the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkers. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best start here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. It's a rain delay at Bristol broadcast. Yep, was watching the hopeful start of the Atlanta-Cincinnati baseball game in the middle of Bristol Motor Speedway. Actually really kind of cool. A few years ago I went and watched Virginia Tech play Tennessee in Bristol. That was pretty awesome. But watching a baseball field at Bristol seems to be pretty cool too. But have a baseball game inside of a NASCAR Coliseum? Yeah, expect the rain, especially Bristol. Didn't expect anything different, did you? Either way, sorry I'm a few minutes late. I was having fun with AI trying to make a NASCAR Air Titan on the field at Bristol on the baseball field, and I couldn't get the AI to work like I wanted it to, so I finally gave up and decided to come into this broadcast with you guys instead. Oh, what a fun Saturday night it's been. Deep Pope, what's up, buddy? You had it last week, had B-Dub, but that was... But had B-Dub, but that last dust up took me. Oh no, Big Puppy behind the bar at Bristol is gold. Yeah, that and him in the car at Miami Homestead was also really good. So yeah, I mean, I do have to give it to Fox. They do know how to take care of a rain delay at a NASCAR track. Just didn't expect to see a rain delay at a NASCAR track for a baseball game. So quite fun. They are having quite the fun time. I'm just glad it's on a baseball field with artificial turf because they can actually get back to a game probably a lot faster than we could get to a race even at Bristol with Air Titans. But either way, since we have a rain delay, we're going to talk some NASCAR and talk some DFS. Yeah, it was not on your bingo card. Yeah, mine either. So, but yeah, glad you. I mean, hopefully, I mean, if you didn't finish first, did you actually still end up at least breaking even or making a little bit of money last week? Yeah, I think I pretty much broke even last week. The Iowa Xfinity race, I was up almost 4x. Until the last couple of cautions, and ended up pretty much breaking even again. So, I mean, breaking even in NASCAR DFS, in all honesty, it's like a win. It's so hard to get, and we discussed it last week. If you want to kind of get the breakdown on that, it's one of the hardest things to hit in all of DFS. So, we'll have to wait and see. Looks like they're going to get close to having a baseball game. That's going to be pretty cool. We'll do a little live commentary as things happen, if they happen in Bristol. But either way, we are headed to Iowa, corn country. Usually really hot, really sunny, and occasionally, if you're an Indy race fan, they get tornadoes. We have no such luck at either for this weekend. It's going to be a beautiful Sunday in Iowa. Like, in the highs in the low 80s or high 70s with almost zero chance of rain. I did not expect that one either, but I'm looking forward to a great race at Iowa tomorrow. D Pope says, you profited. Well, that's good. Took your advice and spread out on some contests. Saber Sim wanted me to have 80% Bubba. Oh, nice. And you said no. Capped him at 35. I mean, that's still not bad. I mean, he was starting, what, third? I, I mean, I knew he would probably be okay because he has raced Indy really, really well. But yeah, no, I think you probably played it right. I'm not a big enough risk taker to take anybody over probably 55%. And I think that's what I had in Denny last week. So, but good for you. I think I probably had 25 or 30% of Bubba. But either way, it was a great race. I'm excited for Bubba. He really, I was not a Bubba fan back in the late, early 2020s. It was pretty much until realistically that 2311 got started and Michael Jordan came on board and Michael Jordan started working with Bubba. And then Bubba got married and then Bubba had a kid and have seen a huge transformation in just the mindset and just everything about Bubba. It's been refreshing to see. He doesn't play the victim card anymore. Um, it's just it's a heartfelt story to really look to see where he was and where he has gotten to, and it's going to be fun to continue to watch that progress because I think he is a good race car driver. Um, and I don't think he needs any special benefits. And go out and do your best and treat others like you want to be treated and go win races. And he won one of the biggest races of the year. So congratulations to Bubba Wallace. I think it's a really good story. Anybody thinking that it's not, well, you haven't paid enough attention to where this guy was and where he's at now. Post says, I went back through your video and made some pool smaller and made the tool work for me. So thank you. Oh, dude, you're more than welcome. I mean, that's what this channel's for. It's to kind of help. I've done this for long enough, and trust me, it changes more often than not. I mean, the Chrome Horn used to be the one to go to win money. And now that the field is so large and the payout is, I mean, the payout's still big if you hit, but it's so hard to be within that tiny fraction of percent. It's not the smart play anymore. There's much smarter plays out there. Yeah, sure, it doesn't have the, I don't know, 100,000, 200,000, $300,000 pot, but that's a lottery shot to try to hit. There's much better ways to do it that are not just cash. I mean, a cash play is still the smarter way to play DFS. But if you're looking to try to win a tournament, there's just better tournaments than the Chrome Horn. So, and it's sad because I like the Chrome Horn a lot. Pope says, I like Bubba. You can tell by the way the field tapping him after that win that he's well liked. Yeah, no, he has really earned the respect, the deserved respect, not the unearned respect that back in 2020 that he was kind of looking for. And a lot of right wing media made a big deal out of the whole garage rope thing in the FBI. But I mean, back then NASCAR had banned the Confederate flag. There were a lot of people that were upset about it. I mean, there was just a lot of animosity. And this is still just a good old redneck sport. And, it's tough for anybody that's not in that group to break through. I mean, look at all the female drivers that have tried to come through. It's a tough sport. I mean, there's no way to call it. And it is what it is. But Bubba has shown that you can break through and you can do it the right way. And it's done with grit. It's done with practice. It's not something that you can just go get because you think you earn it. You've actually got to go earn it and you've got to earn the respect. So either way, we can go for a long time on that. No need to continue with that. Let's get into the racing, but super proud of Bubba. good win for him. Good win for 2311, all across the board. But let's look at the optimal lineups from the Indy race. 168 laps. Yep, they went into overtime. Denny Hamlin. I mean, Denny Hamlin was kind of the freebie spot, and it was. I mean, we've got another one potentially this week with Kyle Busch and him wrecking in practice. I like the Denny play a lot better than I like the Kyle Busch play for this week, but I'm not completely opposed to the Kyle Busch play. I mean, the thing is, Denny was probably had top 5, top 3 speed, and has kind of had that for a long time at Indy, where Kyle Busch has struggled. He struggled at tracks like Iowa last year. He struggles with bumps in the surface, and that bump in turn 1 is what caused him to spin again this week. And it's very possible that it happens again. I don't know how good the backup cars are for RCR. The primary cars are not that good. So why would I expect the backup car to be that good? So, I mean, I could see starting 37th, but I mean, really, I think on the high end, a 20th place finish is going to be good. And when we get to the calculator, we'll put it on there and see where Kyle Busch kind of comes into play. And I don't know if, honestly, it's a great play. I don't think it's a bad play, but I'm not sure it's going to be as good of a play as it was last week for Denny Hamlin at Indy. But Ryan Preece, 23rd to 4th. Good for Ryan Preece. Kyle Larson. Hey, Kyle Larson started to turn that season around, 13th to 2nd. And he's got a fast car for this week. John Hunter Nemechek was also right there with Denny Hamlin. Had a super fast car in practice and came from the back to finish 12th. Made the optimal lineup. Bubba Wallace starting 2nd, finishing in 1st. Good for him. Justin Haley, 28th to 11th. Other drivers, Ryan Blaney, Brett Keselowski, Todd Gillen, all kind of being right there on the outside of that optimal line. Boy, we have got a knotted up challenge going on. We have 8 drivers who have made the optimal lineup so far out of 22 total races. Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, with Ross Chastain one optimal race outside of that lead. Boy, I don't think I've ever seen it this quite knotted up at the top for the optimal lineup challenge. Nobody really. I just do it for fun. I just think it's kind of fun to see which drivers hit the optimal lineup the most. Pope, you've written a bunch more. And we've got Continental in the chat. Good to see you. Always look forward to this. As a novice, I'm learning a lot. Good. Hopefully, I don't give you too much information. There's a lot of data, a lot of information that we go through. Have fun with it. Play small. Play smart. Don't spend more than you can afford. And kind of enjoy it and go back and learn and look. This is the best advice I can give you, Continental, is go back and look at your lineups. Look at who you were playing. Look to see why they did well or didn't do well, and kind of go through the data and see if you made smart plays and those types of things. Look at what the percentages of ownership was across the entire tournament field, and you can find that by, I don't know if anybody else knows you can find that when you pull up Draftkings. Here, I can pull up today's earlier race. Let me pull up. We'll get the chrome horn from the Xfinity race. So if you have this up and you scroll down, right down here, let me slide this over a little. It's got export lineups to CVS. It's a CVS file or CSV file. It's an Excel file. But you can also look over here to find out what the percentages of the draft players was right here. But you can get a full breakdown by actually downloading this. And it'll actually open up into an Excel format. And from here, you can see Taylor Gray had 68.9% drafted from all of the lineups. He was in 70% of the lineups. And you can do this for every one of your races. And you can kind of see who's being played, who's not being played, the prices that are getting played, and those types of things. And that's kind of the stuff that I try to look at. So that's how you look at the percentages are being used. Now you can look at what you picked and the percentages that were there, but that's kind of how I'd like to look at a full field breakdown of what the ownership looks like. You like Denny's paint scheme for this race? Bob's Furniture. Yeah, that's a new sponsorship for Denny. He talked about that. He's pretty excited. Pope also says I could see Kyle Busch being told not to wreck the backup car. He's had ownership experiences, probably knows the logistics cost. So he might be safe. The problem is, yeah, you can. The problem is he's got incredible talent. The problem is, I think his ability to his eye-hand coordination have slowed. And trust me, I'm old enough to know that it slows with age. He's almost the same age as Denny. Now, Denny has figured out how to save the next gen car where Kyle Busch has not learned how to save the car. And you can easily watch the same during practice. If you go back and watch practice, you can watch the difference between Tyler Reddick and his ability to save the loose race car when that car gets disturbed and over the bump, and Kyle Busch not being able to save that car. And those are two huge differences. One is reaction time. Number two is how much wheel each one is putting into the race car to save it. The next gen car is extremely hard to get it to react correctly without being a huge variance. And when that variance happens, the car just spins out. And Kyle Busch, that's why we see Kyle Busch spin so often, is because his mindset is still set on the older race car. And the older race car didn't react the way that this rack and pinion steering on this next gen car does. And that's why Kyle Busch is struggling so much with this next gen car. And until he figures that out, he's not going to ever really improve. He's just going to have to find a track and setup combination that fit his style for him to do well. And right now, what that's telling me, the way he spun out, is Iowa's going to be a real struggle for him. And that's why I'm not real confident on taking Kyle Busch in Draftkings. Now, I'm going to have some ownership, absolutely. I mean, he's starting shotgun on the field, and he does have the ability, and RCR's got better speed than a Cody Ware or Rick Ware Racing car does. So he's got to have the ability to maneuver forward. And yes, I agree with you, Pope. He is going to probably take it a little bit easy, but he also can't take it too easy. He's got to eventually try to get himself worked up to the front. Now, he could do that through pit strategy. The problem is he struggles with speeding on pit road, and he struggles with his team making mistakes on pit road. So he doesn't have a lot to fall back on there either. It's going to be a long day for him. And that's why I don't know if anything better than 20th is going to be super great for him. So, Pope says, before I forget to ask, is the number at the end of the video above the different group of drivers? Can you say what these mean? Like minimum, maximums of those drivers in the group. At the end of your videos, above the different drivers, do you think you should be back with Toyota or wait for a possible Dodge? No. Well, let me try to figure out what you're asking for here. So if he were just wait through the field smartly and had good pit stops, top 20 finish, would that be enough? I don't know. We'll put him on the calculator when we get to him. That's going to be the best way to kind of break down Kyle Busch. But I'm trying to figure out, you wanted to ask me about the numbers at the end of your videos above the different groups of drivers. So at the end of my videos, we'll fast forward all the way to the what I think you're looking at. Are you talking about this number here? I'll kind of hang out here until you can let me know if this is the screen that you're asking about, because I can break this down a little bit. Yes. So this is my rank chart. So for example, we'll take Christopher Bell at the top here. Christopher Bell, it's got a salary, he's got its starting spot, and it's got a rank. I use a Excel or Google Sheets program that looks at the 5 tracks that we compare to, that we discuss on the videos that you're probably familiar with. It also looks at the last 10 similar style tracks. So for like this week, it'll look at even, I have it looking at Martinsville, Bristol, Richmond, Phoenix, Nashville, Gateway, Dover, and I think maybe Loudon. So I put that into the short tracks also. But pretty much what I call is 10 similar style tracks in the last 10 races, the last current 10 tracks. So it takes the 5 that are the most relevant. It'll take the 10 that are somewhat relevant. And then I also look at the current trend for this certain style track. So like I take road courses out of that trend line because it doesn't really compute, it makes a false algorithm into the whole thing. So I look at the last 10 oval style tracks, and I put values on wins, top 5s, top 10s, top 20s, most laps led, fast laps. Then I also put into that same algorithm, I put into it practice times, top 10 or 10 lap average. I put in qualifying. All kind of get put into the ranking system. And at the very end of this very long spreadsheet, I'll pull up the spreadsheet real quick for you to look at kind of what's going on with it. 1 second. And because I have this a little bit wonky size-wise, I kind of have to get this to fit. 1 second. All right. So pretty much what I have here. So this doesn't quite fit right. I'm going to try to squeeze it in here so you can kind of see what I've got going on. All right. So pretty much this is kind of what I've got. So this is the recent track history. So it's the 5 tracks that I was just talking about. So for here, it's Iowa, Phoenix, Richmond, and Nashville are the 5 tracks that I put in that most compare to what Iowa is. Because Iowa, we've only had 1 race. If we were racing at Bristol, I would just run the last 5 races at Bristol. Or Martinsville, I would just run the last 5 at Bristol. But because Iowa, we've only got 1 race sample, I've got to put other tracks in. Now, Iowa was built and designed by Rusty Wallace, and he built the track to be very similar to Richmond and Phoenix. So that one's an absolute shoe-in. And then the other one, you can kind of throw in there Nashville, you could throw in Gateway, you could throw in Darlington's a little bit too big. So there's nothing really kind of like Iowa other than Phoenix and Richmond are the 2 best. So what this is here. So this has, like I said, starts, average starting spots, the best finish, their average finish, wins, top 5s, top 10s, top 20s, average laps led, fast laps, Draftkings points, driver ratings, the percentage that they've run in the top 15 at those 5 races on the average, and the average running position is here. And then I do the same thing, like I said, for similar track history, and those dates are way off because I'm the only one who really looks at this. But it takes into account those 10 races that we just talked about that are similar style tracks, and it goes through all the same things again. And then I do my trend line, which is the last 10 races at ovals. Now, when it comes to road courses, I'll put the trend of the last 10 road courses into that. But that's almost the same as the similar style tracks. So, but either way, then I put all those in, I put values on each one of those, and it spreads it all the way out. And then I use a PD, place differential upside scale, and I put, depending on how big place differential is per track, I put a point total on that. Then I look at the practice sheets, put a total on that, and to multiply it by a number, and then it gives me a total, and then it gives me a rank. So when you see the number on the rank, all of that information comes into this ranking system. Hope that explains everything that I've done. All right, so let me catch back up to what your chat is. The number, the title, the place difference, that means probably need 2. Yes, so here, this is who I considered the 4 drivers who are probably going to be the highest owned. And typically highest owned means probably 40% ownership or more. And that comes from experience. And it also comes from looking at that number that I downloaded off the Draftkings for the previous racing. So it gives me an idea whether I'm right, wrong, if I need to make adjustments into my algorithms to make sure I know who's going to be highest owned. So my best guess is Bell, Hamlin, Blaney, and potentially Reddick will probably be the highest owned or have what I consider to be the potential for the highest amount of DraftKings points. Then I look at the top 8 or 9 drivers who probably have the best chance to start up front and finish up front. And you can see the ranking over here. Larson starting in 3rd probably has the best chance of starting up. This would be who might be a dominator, including anybody that's up here kind of starting close to the top 10 may end up being a dominator also. So Hamlin, Blaney, Larson, Byron, Elliott, Briscoe, all potentially are what I would consider to be a dominator. And because we'll get to the how many dominators we probably want to look at, and we probably want to look at one dominator and 2 additional guys that will start close to the front and finish up front. So that's 3 of the 6 drivers. The other 3 drivers need to be value/place differential drivers. And that really comes from over here. Typically, your higher ranking, typically higher priced place differential drivers are over here on this top sheet here. And then the value is going to come from here. And then this grouping down here are probably guys that I'm probably going to need to avoid. Now, AJ, after looking at practice times, and when we look at his sheet, I'll probably end up playing him more than what my rating system says. And that's a lot of what kind of I was saying last week is if I have a gut feeling, like there are 2 drivers down here that my algorithm says, yeah, probably are not going to be great plays. But looking at practice times and the practice sheets, Justin Haley and AJ Allmendinger, I think actually are very playable this week and could be what Family Guy or Family Man says are sleepers. And by a sleeper, they're probably going to be definitely under 10% owned, maybe even under 5% owned, and give great leverage in large field tournaments. And Justin Haley and AJ Allmendinger easily could both be in play for that. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what this sheet is and what it is trying to explain and why I use it kind of as a cheat sheet when I'm building lineups. So, if I'm building a lineup and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a Christopher Bell and I'm going to take, and then I'm going to look for a Dominator. I'm going to take Christopher Bell. I'm going to take Kyle Larson. And then as my expensive place differential guy, maybe a Ross Chastain or maybe a Kyle Busch. And then I need a value. And where do I go and look for the values? It's going to be down in here because I need to be place differential and cheap. And maybe that's a Ty Dillon or it's a Todd Gillen, maybe an Eric Jones. And that's kind of what this slide represents. Hopefully that answers the question on what all of this information means. So when you're building lineups, feel free to come back to this video, pause the video, and use this as a potential cheat sheet. I don't try to hide anything. I don't try to give you something different than what I end up doing. When I end up building a lineup, if all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a Christopher Bell at 10,200, I'm going to take a Kyle Larson at 10,500, and I'm going to take a Ross Chastain at 8,500. Well, I know just in my mind, we're at almost $30,000 of the 50. Well, I'm going to have $20,000 left for 3 drivers. Then I got to figure out, all right, who else is going to be left? And sometimes it's going to be, probably not a Cody Ware, but, it might be a Ty Dillon. And I could have easily in this video said, yeah, I'm probably not going to play a whole lot of Ty Dillon. Well, it might fall into a few of my lineups. So, yeah, my pleasure. I don't try to make a video and not tell you all the information that I'm utilizing or doing. This DFS is way too hard to think that I'm going to get an edge by telling somebody something different. And there are some DFS channels out there that will absolutely tell people, oh yeah, you need to play this guy. He's going to be a shoo-in. And they'll only run like 5% of him. Pretty much what I say, what I'm going to do, and I'll share my numbers. I don't care. There's nothing to hide. It's too, like I said, it's too hard to nail these things to begin with, much less try to hide stuff from people. I never understood that. So, or some of the football and baseball DFS shows, they get a little sneaky with stuff, trying to change the ownership percentage. And sometimes it works. I'm like, holy crap, they actually probably got the line to move a little bit. So, but either way, we are headed to Iowa. Let's get into the actual race for tomorrow. And please ask questions. I'll be more than happy to try to answer. As you can tell from last week, I'm not shy by having long videos. I think last week's was 2 hours and 40 minutes or something crazy. So that, and they're also about to restart baseball. So we'll be able to get some commentary. Baseball on a NASCAR track. Still crazy to look at. Iowa, it is a short track, under a mile. 0.875 miles, 12 to 14 degrees in the turn, and that is Indy. That is not Iowa. I'm not sure why my picture did that. I was like, that's not Iowa. There's not a golf course in the middle of the Iowa track. Sorry about that. That's not Iowa. It's close. Indianapolis and Iowa are not that far apart. They're not close either. So ignore the picture. I always have one video. Oopsie, and that's it. I've unintentionally, I always have one every week. It's almost kind of like what did I screw up this week? And there it is. 12 to 14 degrees in the turns. The race length is 350 laps. So Dominator points will actually mean something this week, whereas last week we only did 168 laps, so well more than half. So Dominator points, meant something, but they weren't a huge factor. It was not something you needed to build into your thought process on building. It was much more finishing positions. Dominator points, 245 points. It's huge. It's a lot of points. 157.5 coming from fast laps and 87.5 coming from laps led. Other tracks that you can compare it to, we've kind of already talked about this, but Richmond, Phoenix, Nashville, Gateway, you can throw in Martinsville, you can probably maybe throw in a little bit of Bristol. Anytime it's a short track, you can kind of throw it into the mix, but realistically, Richmond and Phoenix are the two that are the most similar. Since I use SaberSim, I try to take the information from videos, mainly yours, add in any personal takes, and set guardrails. Yeah, it's that I don't think there's a wrong way to build DFS lineups. I mean, there are some things that are out there that I go, why would you put the pole sitter from Talladega into your lineup? Nobody in the top 10 ever makes the optimal lineup at super speedways, but people do it, and I just go, why? They do it though. Um, so yeah, there's not a wrong way, then there's not fully a right way to build DFS lineups, and that's kind of the fun part about DFS and playing the sport. If everybody had it figured out, none of us would ever win, or we'd all just split the pot. And we'd all end up losing money, and DraftKings would be like, "Thank you very much." Like I said, go if you're looking for an investment, go check out DraftKings stock price. There's a reason why they've got a lot of money. But optimal lineups from previous race. Pope says also sidebar. Have a shot to take down FanDuel MMA for $1,000. Oh, nice. Cool. I like MMA. I just don't. I don't have the time or extra. I guess I just don't feel like spending the money to pay for MMA to watch. When it's on the freebie side of things on ESPN, I definitely watch it and love it. But how different is FanDuel than DraftKings? It's different. I mean, the concept is still the same, but their pricing and their point structure is different. I haven't played FanDuel in so long that it would be really hard for me to fully explain. I know the pricing's different. I know that how they award points is different. And honestly, I just know it's just slightly different. It can my videos translate and transfer over to FanDuel? Yeah, sure, because I mean most of my stuff is based on strictly just stats. Laps led, fast laps, starting position, finishing position. Like I can't remember if FanDuel utilizes stage points or not. I don't think they do. But I don't think they weight place differential as strong as finishing position or something. But you could. Tonight's card is free if you have ESPN Plus or YouTube Plus. I have YouTube Premium and I have YouTube TV, and I have just, I guess, whatever regular ESPN is that comes along with YouTube TV. But I don't have the Disney ESPN Plus deal. So now, very intriguing that ESPN Ultimate or ESPN Premium is coming out in the next few weeks or next week or so, which is I think $29.99 for the first year, and it gives you everything ESPN does, all their live channels, all their stuff on demand. Now I don't know if it's going to do MMA stuff for free, like the big pay-per-views. Probably still have to pay for those, but for $29.99, if you want to potentially get rid of cable or slash YouTube TV or one of the cable type streaming services, and all you do is watch sports, kind of like what I do, ESPN's got a full-fledged $29.99 a month deal coming up very soon, and I think Fox is doing the same thing with all their stuff. And then, of course, if I guess the question would be, oh, so TNT is part of Max, so you could have streamed all of the races on Max. So yeah, NBC, I think you can do Peacock for all of the NBC races. I don't know. I always play with that and go, do I really need to pay the 80 some odd dollars I pay for YouTube TV just for watching sports? Probably not. But back to racing. God, squirrel. I got sidetracked again. Optimal lineups from Iowa from last year's race. And this is kind of a guide on pricing, but somewhere, or not pricing, but points. And I always try to look to see, okay, where did the high price driver, how many points did they need to get into the optimal, because it's going to be important on when we look at our calculator. And it's somewhere in the low 60s. So if they can get to probably 65 points, and this is for the high price drivers, that ends up probably being what we want to look at when we start to build our lineups. Can the driver get to 60 plus points, and how do they get there? And we'll go through that as we get to the driver by driver breakdown. But also, who are the cheap drivers and how many points did they get? Well, I mean, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. had 70 points. I mean, that's even more than a high price driver at 64. But Austin Dillon, being a value, got to 41.9, so about 42 points, at least for one race at Iowa last year. Well, we can look at the Spring Phoenix race from a couple months ago and see, okay, the high price drivers were 62 points, and then the values were in the low 50s. All right, so just put that in the memory bank. Where did they start? And of course, this is kind of what I was saying, was start up front, stay up front, potentially dominate, and then place differential. Well, there's 5 place differentials, a little on the high side for a short track, 1 dominator, 3 value, and 1 person who finished in the top 5. Iowa from last year, 1 dominator, 3 place differentials, 2 value picks, and 4 guys that finished in the top 5. And then Martinsville, which had 400 laps, and that's the reason why I left Martinsville in here, because the lap total is very similar. So the points and how they end up playing also comes into play. Well, same type of thing. We had 1 dominator, 3 place differentials, 3 value drivers, 3 finishing. So 3 guys that finished in the top 5, 3 guys that were place differentials, so that's 10 spots or more. And then the Nashville 2025 race, which was 300 laps, 1 dominator, 3 place differential, 3 value, and 4 people who finished in the top 5. I think as important as place differential is picking the drivers who are going to lead some laps, have some fast laps, and finish in the top 5. And then, of course, how many values. And it's about 3 per race. And that's $7,500 or less. Pope says, sorry, YouTube TV is what I have on it. Okay, yeah, so I have YouTube TV. But I guess whenever ESPN starts their full-fledged premium streaming service, not the ESPN Plus with Disney, but their actual full-fledged, it would have that on there too. All right, so where do the points actually come from compared to starting position? Has nothing to do with pricing, has nothing to do with the driver. It is strictly where do they start, and are they finishing in the top 15 in points from those starting spots? So Iowa last year, 3 drivers starting in the top 5 made the top 15 in Draftkings points. 6 through 10 had 2. So the top 10 starters, 5 of them finished in the top 15 in Draftkings points. Very important to remember this, because what we're realistically trying to do is we're trying to eliminate at least half of the field when we're building lineups. So that way we're almost not really worrying about half of the field. So we want to narrow down to about 18, maybe 20 drivers and start to build from there. Every once in a while, you're going to have to go grab 1 or 2 out of the other stack, just as okay, maybe this driver does something, and I also need some salary relief. So I'm not saying you get to 15 and you don't run anybody else, but what I'm saying is running 10% ownership or more, I'm going to narrow down to about 15 to 18 drivers. So starting 21 through 30th, they started, only 1 driver started between 21 and 30. And then 31st or worse, it was 4 drivers. And all this is telling me is that they scored 34.45 points or more, which is top 15 point getters for the Iowa race last year. Well, same thing kind of happens with Nashville, Phoenix, and Richmond. And as you can see, the average is 35.1. So to get into the top 15 in points, DraftKings points, they need to score 35 points or more. So that becomes very important when we put them on the calculator. So 35 points on the low end, 60 points on the high end. Any driver that we think might get into the middle of that group is in play. Anybody outside that on the lower end is out of play. All right. Denny Hamlin, $11,000 in DraftKings. The 5 races that we're comparing to. So this translate to these 5 races here. So Denny Hamlin, out of those 5 races, has 1 win, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 54.2 DraftKings average. Well, remember, when we came back up here, 35 to 60 is where we want to fall. Well, on average, in those 5 races, Denny Hamlin falls into that 54.2. He has an average finish of 6.2 and an average running position of 10.5 for those 5 races. Last year's race at Nashville, or not at Nashville, at Iowa, Denny Hamlin finished 24th. And the one race that we have, because they've only raced once at Iowa in the Cup Series, Denny Hamlin finished, of course, 24th. Denny Hamlin has 4 wins on the season. Now, this is our practice lap information put on a chart, and it kind of gives us a real good indication on who seems to be consistently fast, who is not so fast, who has a well-balanced car, who is running erratic laps, and those types of things. Kyle Larson is the car that I chose this week as the constant. Denny Hamlin, of course, that's who we're talking about right now, is in yellow. This white line here is the average speed for all of the drivers who made it through the laps. And we went all the way to 33 laps. We had some drivers that had about 45 to 50 laps. I even told my son, how many baseball bats are going to end up coming loose and how many will potentially hit somebody? Well, they've got netting up. So there's one baseball bat. Oh my gosh, it is raining again in Bristol. Surprise, surprise. All right, sorry. One bat thrown. But Denny Hamlin's speeds were started off a little erratic, and then he became better than average, and at some points was a little bit faster than Kyle Larson on some laps. But this kind of gives you an indication on how fast or slow compared to the average and compared to Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin was. Denny Hamlin looks to be in pretty good shape. No real issues or problems. Is better than average, maybe not quite as good as Kyle Larson. But starting in 11th, that's not a bad starting spot. All right, so this page here, this is our calculator. We'll break it all down and look to see how many points we potentially think Denny Hamlin can get, or since he's $11,000, he's going to need to get to probably about 65 points to be in the optimal at that price tag. How does he get there? Well, he's currently starting 11th. His average finish is 7th. That comes from these 2 things. So remember we talked about earlier the similar tracks. So similar style tracks, short tracks. Denny Hamlin, for the last 10 races on those, has an average finish of 7.6. He has, in the last 10 oval starts, an average finish of 6.8. Well, the average between those two is about 7. So that's the average finish. So starting in 11th, finishing in 7th, which is the average. We'll change this and see where we need to get to. And then it also has his best and worst finish. So his best finish is first for both, and his worst finish is 24th for the 10 similar, and 38th for the last 10 races that they've raced. I know, a lot of information. But starting in 11th, finished in 7th, and his practice speeds were 10th in single lap, second in 10 lap consecutive average, did 46 total laps of practice. We saw that here. So now he's going to, with just this being said, it'll have 10 fast laps and 10 laps led, which will give us 48 total points. Okay. Well, that's not quite to the 65 that we need, or even possibly 60 to make the optimal. So what does Denny Hamlin need to get to be there? Well, let's take him down to third. Well, that's 56 points. Second, 58 points, and finishing in first would be 62 points. First would probably do it only leading 10 laps and having 10 fast laps. Well, the way kind of Iowa runs, he's not going to, if he finishes in first, he's probably not going to, he's going to lead more than 10 laps. So it would probably be closer to 40 if he does that. Now he's at 69.5, and he'd probably have about 15 fast laps out of 40 laps. So it's not quite 2 for 1, but it's slightly less than that is on average what it ends up being. That's 71.5. Well, what happens if he does that kind of in the middle of stage 3 run but doesn't win, but he finishes in third? Well, that's 65.75. So even with Denny Hamlin finishing in third, as long as he leads about 40 laps, has 15 fast laps, he falls in that 65.75 points. Well, what happens if he doesn't quite do all that? Let's say he doesn't lead any laps, but let's say he has 10 fast laps and finishes in third. That's 53.5. Well, that's going to probably be enough for the top 15 in points, but not probably enough at his price tag to be in the optimal. So now, once again, how far can he go down? If he finishes at 11th, that's 36. That's barely in the top 15. That's probably not going to be enough. So he's going to need to get a top 3 finish, top 5 finish, lead some laps, and have fast laps, which are all possible for Denny Hamlin. So not overly worried about that. Denny Hamlin still is in play. He could be potentially one of the drivers who dominates. So Denny Hamlin stays in the bucket of, yep, I'll have him in lineups. More than 10%. Honestly, I'll probably have Denny Hamlin probably about 20 to 22%, 25%, somewhere there. I'm not going to be super heavy on it. I'm not going to be super light. Oh my God, it is just pouring at Bristol again. They're going to delay this game again. Uh-oh. De La Cruz is on first. I have him stealing a bag. That's one of my bets. All right, back to this. Ryan Blaney, 10,700. So Denny Hamlin stays in the bucket of, yep, I'll keep him. Ryan Blaney, 10,700, starting in the 6th position. His practice speeds were 15th, and so I'm going to go much faster through Ryan Blaney now that I broke down Denny Hamlin. All things still stay the same, except for their data, of course. Ryan Blaney, 10,700, starting in 6th. He is 15th in single lap, 42 total laps of practice, and 6th in the 10-lap consecutive run. Not quite as fast as he was last year. Does have one win, which was the win last year here at Iowa. And for the 5 races that we're comparing to, which are found up here, 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 3 top 20s, a 40.6 Draftkings average, 16.6 average finish with an 11th place average running position. And he finished first here last year, not second. Oops, number 2. He has, of course, the 1 start where he finished in first. His practice speeds. Kyle Larson is in black. Ryan Blaney is in yellow. And then the average. Ryan Blaney is definitely faster than the average. A couple laps he was faster than Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson did have a slip here at lap, looks like 23-24. But if we kind of drew the line, it probably would be about the same speed as Ryan Blaney. So very, very equal to Kyle Larson in speed. And starting in 6th, he definitely would have the possibility. Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. If you're not have the baseball game on in the background, it's like they just had oil spill on the racetrack and they're literally putting kitty litter or quick dry out on the baseball field to help dry the track while it's still raining. That's so dumb. Just put the tarp over it. Or just play the game tomorrow, dummies. Oh, this is so silly. What are they doing? This is like them putting on rain tires for Talladega or Charlotte or something stupid. So dumb. Either way. Sorry. Didn't mean to go off on that, but I'm literally watching it pour down rain and then dumping quick dry on the field. Okay. Ryan Blaney, 10,700 starting in 6th. Put him on the calculator. He's got an average finish of about 11th, starting in 6th. Well, that definitely is a negative place differential, so that's not going to work. But he did win this race last year. So where's he going to need to get to the 60 points? Well, it's probably going to definitely be first or second. First, leading 20 laps and having 15 fast laps, which is probably not about right. Let's go to 40. 66.75. That definitely puts him into that ballpark. If he slips at all and finishes third, that puts him on a real razor's edge on making the optimal. Anything worse than that, of course, is definitely going to take him out of that optimal range or any laps left. So, could Ryan Blaney be a dominator and can he win the race? But he did it last year. He likes Iowa. He's super excited to go back to Iowa. His practice speeds were, definitely within the range of doing it. So, in my opinion, Ryan Blaney is still in play. I don't know how much of like a Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin combo I would run. It makes it that much more difficult because both of the drivers need to do pretty much the same thing and still have other drivers do a lot of things. It just gets really difficult and the percentages drop off drastically when you're trying to get two drivers to kind of have a little bit of dominance and both finish well. It just makes it a little tougher. All right, Kyle Larson, 10,500, starting from third. And you're also talking about Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin getting past Kyle Larson. Now, Kyle Larson has had tendencies to make mistakes, but when he's on, he's really on. And like I said, he is the constant that I'm using for practice speeds. And he's starting further up than the rest of them. Now, that gives him a place differential drop, but what's up, Wyatt? Welcome aboard. I'm late. I'm going to scrub back to the beginning. Good luck to everyone. Oh, yeah, we have not a whole lot of racing talk. Well, we talked about baseball and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, on how I come up with a lot of my ranking systems is what we talk about. So if you could skip some of that and come back up to here. But either way, welcome aboard. Glad you could make it. 10,500, starting in third. His practice speeds were 5th. My 9-month-old is watching along with me. Well, teach him young. I love it. Even though it's pretty late, they should be asleep by now. Boy or girl, Pope. Either way, glad they're joining in. There's lots of math. It's a good math class. Larson starting in third, who's 5th in single lap, 3rd and 10 lap. He does not have a win in the last 5 races we're comparing to, but has 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, an 11.4 average finish, and a 10.2 average running position. He finished 34th in this race last year. As we've seen before, his practice speeds were very, very good. In fact, he's the constant. William Byron was probably the next best. You could probably also say Brian Blaney was pretty close and Denny Hamlin was pretty close. But they're literally all throw them just underneath a blanket. It's going to be who makes a mistake and who doesn't. And even William Byron towards the tail end of practice had a little bit faster lap times than Kyle Larson. Either way, starting in third, do you think Kyle Larson has is back or not. If you think he's back, then you run him. If you think he's going to make mistakes, don't run him. Because he's going to need to finish in first. Or lead a bunch of laps. He could stay where he's at as long as he leads 55 laps, and even that puts him right on the outside edge looking in. So he's going to need to finish third or better and lead at least 55 laps. Probably needs to lead closer to 75 laps. If he does that, he's probably going to have a few more laps led, or fast laps. So 20 fast laps, finish in third, lead 75 laps, gets him to 68.75. It's probably enough at 10,500 to be in the optimal lineup. Her name is Emerson. Emerson? And she won't sleep, teething. Oh, Mama finished her third in a row at the hospital, so daddy duty. Good for you, Pope. Good for you. So, well, glad I can hopefully keep Emerson entertained during this. She won't sleep. Sleep. Okay, yeah. I knew what you meant by the sleep and sleet. So no worries there. But Emerson, it's time to go to sleep now. It's 10 o'clock. Your daddy's got important Draftkings stuff to worry about. Kidding. Sure, you can easily do both. Christopher Bell, 10,200, starting in 17th, was first in single lap, but 14th in 10 laps. So fell off a little bit on his 10-lap run. Not too bad, though. Does have one win out of the 5 races that we're comparing to, and I think that was at Phoenix earlier this year when he went through his 3-race stretch of winning. But he's very consistent. 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s for the 5 races that we're comparing to, with a 4.8 average finish and a 7.2 average running position, starting in 17th. This is why Christopher Bell went to number 1 on my chart. He finished 4th in this race last year, so all indications are pretty good, except for his practice speeds were a little bit. This what I could say would be concerning. But it is Iowa, and turn 1 is extremely sketchy, just to say the least. We're going to see some cautions tomorrow, to say the least. And that's where the craziness of DFS comes into play, because you never know who's going to end up slipping and making a mistake in turn 1. She's an amazing baby. We're blessed. She pulls for Denny like I do. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I'm not the biggest Denny fan, but I live just outside of Richmond, and I've met Denny a few times. So it depends on the mood you catch Denny in, on whether he's a nice guy or not. But yeah, a couple times I've met him, he's been perfectly fine. I haven't seen him be kind of a not so nice person. But I guess any celebrity sports person has that tendency to them. Starting in 17th, his average finish is 8th. So, I mean, just with that alone, and if he happens to lead 5 laps, it's 50.75 points. Okay. That's just his average finish. If he gets to 3rd, we're almost there already, starting in 17th. The Christopher Bell play makes a lot more sense, even more so than a Denny Hamlin, Larson, or Blaney. And this style track is just absolutely right up Christopher Bell's alley. So, I mean, I honestly think, even if we take out that, let's say he has 13 fast laps, it's a 60.85. Now, it's not the 65, but Christopher Bell's definitely in play. And because of his starting spot, if you can squeeze the price, you could run a Christopher Bell with another dominator / high finishing position. They both play. So a Christopher Bell with a Kyle Larson, a Christopher Bell with a Denny Hamlin, a Christopher Bell with Brian Blaney. Now, I don't think you can get away with running 3 high price drivers, because you're going to have to go too far down. There are a couple of plays where it does end up playing, but it's going to be really, really tough to nail that. William Byron next in our group here, $10,000, starting in second. He was fourth in single lap, first in 10 lap. I mean, honestly, you throw a cover over the first five guys we've discussed. It's just they're all very, very fast and could all easily dominate. Starting in second, his average finish for the five racers we're comparing to is 8.6 or 9.9 average running position. He finished second in this race last year. Starting in second, practice speeds we already looked at it. We looked at Kyle Larson, are very good, very, very similar to pretty much everybody we've looked at. There's not a huge difference. We're going to get to some guys that have some differing speeds. But starting in second, his average finish is 13th, though. This is probably the concerning part with William Byron, is he doesn't seem to finish that well. He tends to run a little bit better and then makes mistakes. So it's one of those. I mean, William Byron could easily go out, snatch the lead early, lead the first 50 laps, first stage, and then slip and fall to 13th. Well, if he slipped to 13th, which is his average finish, it's 27.5. That definitely doesn't play. And this is where it gets tough. This is where you have to almost just kind of pick one. Is it William Byron? Is it Larson? Or is it maybe Briscoe, who's starting from the pole, who we haven't gotten to yet? But I don't see a scenario where a William Byron and a Kyle Larson both are able to do well enough to do it. I mean, is it possible? Sure. Let's put William Byron at 55 laps led, finished in second. Well, he'll have fast laps a little more than that. I'll have, let's say, 17 fast laps and 55 laps led. What's 63.4? And like we said, you could easily have a Kyle Larson finish in third, lead 75 laps for 68 points. The problem is you've now spent $20,500 of your $50,000. So you've eaten through a third already. Yeah, Pope says, yeah, I would max one rule of the three. Yeah. I think all three are very playable. So I think it's you kind of build the lineup and you put one of those three in. Or, I mean, there are other drivers. Like Chase Elliott, he finished in third last year in this race. He was, in practice, he was ninth and fourth. So his practice speeds were just right there with Larson and with Byron and the rest of them. They're all very, very close on speed. Starting from eighth, he'll have a little place differential that he could potentially get. And like I said, he finished third in this race last year. Practice speeds, like I said, look fine. So Chase Elliott, let's say he finishes in fourth and has... The problem is Chase Elliott, other than Bristol or other than Dover earlier this year, does not dominate races very often. And that's going to be the issue with Chase Elliott. I'm not saying he can't do it, because sure, anything is possible, but I don't know if it's as likely. The averages don't point to Chase Elliott in this being a dominant race. And his starting position is not there, and his pit crew has been suspect. So honestly, I think an 8th to 4th might lead a few laps here and there, but I don't think it's a dominating type scenario. And I think it's 15 fast laps. It's 52 points. Well, at $9,800, that's not going to cut it. I mean, it puts him in the top 15 in points, but it's not going to be enough to make the optimal. Can it potentially cash a cash tournament? Yeah, like I think Chase Elliott's a perfectly safe play for a cash tournament play, or if you happen to play in the snake draft. If anybody played the snake draft yet, that's actually kind of fun. I ended up winning the snake draft that I was in last week. Now, you're only going against 3 other players, and only one person can you pick. It's a snake draft, and literally after one person, like if you took Chase Elliott, he's off the board. Nobody else can have it. So it's kind of a fun, different way to to run DFS. So I did not do well in my snake draft for the Xfinity race earlier today, though. Scott Harris. Oh, I got 2 new people. What's up, Little Rainy? How many drivers? Oh, something's not happening. Let's say, how many drivers have you covered so far? I think this is the 5th or 6th. I just go in the order that they are priced at, from highest to lowest. So we're just starting to get on a roll here. Scott Harris, who are some of your favorites for cash on DraftKings? Well, Chase Elliott would be definitely one of them. I mean, right now, Denny Hamlin would probably be. You could go with a Denny Hamlin. Actually, Christopher Bell. Right now, I think if I've on the high price side of things, if I'm running a cash lineup, Christopher Bell is going to be in there, and I think a Chase Elliott could easily be in there. The same thing, you're still going to run into the same limitations as you would with anything. It's $50,000. It's 6 drivers. Tyler Reddick seems like somebody you want to put in, but his stats really are not that great at Iowa, and they're really not that great on short tracks. They're not awful. They're not as bad as they used to be, but he's still suspect on tracks under a mile in length. I'll just leave that there. And I've been to enough races with Tyler Reddick in them. He struggles. I mean, we should look at his practice speeds. They're just very inconsistent. And this is something I always kind of pay attention to, are the way up and downs on their practice times. This just tells me they're hunting for a line. They're hunting for speed. I mean, if you watch the practice earlier today, he was really loose in. He was really tight exits. His car just was not very well balanced. So it's going to be a little bit of a longer afternoon. Now, does that mean Tyler Reddick can't make up spots and become a potential player? Absolutely. I mean, he's got an average finish of 11.8. Well, that alone is 11 points. Put it on the calculator. It probably isn't enough for his price to be there, and I'm not sure it's even safe for cash. It's 46.15. So your cash, Little Rainy, I was winning the $100,000 contest last week until Zane wrecked in overtime. Well, you can thank Christopher Bell for that one. It wasn't Zane's fault. That was Christopher Bell's fault. And Christopher Bell admitted it was a mistake. But, oh man. Yeah, I've been there. I've been there more times than I want to count. I mean, I was there for the Xfinity race earlier today. I wasn't winning 10 or 100,000, but I was winning like $480 and one wreck, and I ended up breaking even. Now, I still feel fortunate to break even every week. So, if I get lucky enough to win, then it's a positive. But Tyler Reddick, I mean, even getting his average finish of 11th is not going to be enough. He's still going to need to get to at least 60 or 65 points. Now, his path is a little bit easier. Can he make it up to 5th? Well, that's still really not even enough. He's going to need to finish 3rd, and that's not leading any laps. It's seven fast laps. So, and I just don't. I mean, his averages, his best finish is 3rd or 4th, depending on if we're looking at all ovals or if we're looking at the last 10 short tracks. And his average is, like I said, it's 13.6 on short tracks or 17.8 over the last 10. There's just no indications that he's going to go out there and finish 3rd on a short track. He's going to be lucky to get to 11th. And that's not going to be enough for cash or for a tournament. In my personal opinion, it's still Tyler Reddick. It's still on 2311 equipment. 2311 won an Indy last week. But Tyler Reddick's just not that great on short tracks. So I'm going to be a fade on Tyler Reddick. I'll put him in the bucket of, I might run him. It'll be less than 10%. Pope says, so no Chase or Reddick for GP apps. I was going to say absolutely not. But no, I don't. I'm probably not going to run them in large scale tournaments. Chase is definitely viable for cash. Um, Reddick would scare me for that. Um, Part of me thinks Reddick drives pissed off that his teammate won. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if a pissed off driving Reddick makes him any faster at less than a mile racetrack. In fact, that's probably the worst thing that he could do. So, I honestly, I mean, you play whatever you want. There's room for place differential with Tyler Reddick. I mean, we just looked at it. He's going to need to get up to fifth, and fifth just is on the outside of what I would consider to be optimal for his price tag. Now, if you had Tyler Reddick in your lineup and he scored 59 points, probably not the end of the world. You're not going to potentially win a GPP. You can play Tyler Reddick in cash, but I think Chase Elliott's a better play, and it's $300 more expensive. So, watching the Netflix series, he's so hard on himself. Also, part of me thinks that the field will be high on Bubba and Reddick this week. Maybe. I think it's hard to correlate between, I mean, other than momentum, and there is something behind momentum. Don't get me wrong, but Reddick doesn't have that momentum. So I just, I'm not interested in running Reddick. So I could see the potential play because of the place differential, but yeah, you could definitely run the story of, yeah, he's going to drive pissed off. Yeah, 23-11-1 last week. There are paths, but I personally don't like the path. Joey Logano at 9,300. I mean, yeah, save $200. Go with Joey Logano. Starting in 14th, he ran a really good race here last year. The Fords are much better on mile or shorter style tracks. They're really good on super speedways. It's the intermediate style tracks that Ford struggles on. They do fairly well on the mile and a halves and the super speedways, and they also do well at these short tracks. And go back and watch the race last year. Joey Logano and all of Penske were absolutely really good here. The Fords and the Penskes have been a little bit suspect recently, but they are very, very cyclical. Once they get hot, they're good for a while. Now, Joe Logano's practice speeds were about abysmal. So the only thing that Joe Logano's got going for him is he has an average finish of 9th on the 5 races that we're comparing to. He finished 6th in this race last year. But his practice speeds, he was 36th and 33rd. I mean, if we look at the chart, he never gets better than average. I mean, he's actually not even average for any of the practice. Now, he was in the first group, which should have been the faster of the two groups also, because it was a cleaner track. Had not gotten rubbered up yet. So he should have been faster in the first group, and he wasn't. That's even more suspect. So he's got an average finish of 14th over both of the two styles averaged together. If he finishes 14th, starts in 14th, it's 32.15. I mean, probably the only thing right now, in my opinion, that's going for Joe Logano was he and Penske last year at Iowa ran a really good race. We've got a drastically different track. Number one, the patchwork quilt that they paved last year has aged dramatically. The bump into turn one is much more drastic. And Joe Logano practice speeds are not good right now. So I honestly will probably fade off of Joey Logano as much as I fade off Tyler Reddick. Is it an absolute fade? No. there's only a few drivers I will absolutely fade. But Joey Logano easily could be under 10%. I could see the scenario of running him because Penske typically is good at this style track, and they could come into play because there are other Penske drivers who were very fast in practice. And Ryan Blaney was much better in practice. So why Joey Logano was this far off in practice is beyond me. Very confusing, to be perfectly honest. Almost like something was broken in the car. So, and that is very possible. And they're going to figure it out and make adjustments and make unapproved adjustments. Still have the starting spot at 14th, but start from the rear tomorrow. And that's going to be a tough hill to climb. So, Chase Briscoe got himself another pole this year. Holy smokes. He's going after a record or something. I don't know how many poles it is because I really don't track that. But this has to be his 5th or 6th pole this year, which is just, in this era of NASCAR, is almost unheard of. But damn, another pole. And he was fast in practice. 3rd on single lap, 10th and 10 lap consecutive average. I honestly, you almost can't even run Chase Briscoe historical numbers because they have been so much better in this Toyota 19 car than they were when he was with Ford and Stewart-Haas. It's almost night and day. You'd almost be better off looking at the 19s data, even though honestly Martin Truex Jr. kind of fell off a little bit his last 2 years. But I tell you what, this 19 team has got it going on when it comes to qualifying. His practice speeds were fine. I mean, the first lap or so, he definitely had an oopsie. But after that, he was as fast as Larson was throughout. From the pole, I could easily see him going out and leading the first 50 laps. And that's why I put in here 50 laps led. 10 fast laps. Starting at first, but his average finish is 15th. Like I said, I think he can improve on his average. I mean, his average over the last 10, which are all in the 19 car, he's at a 13.2. Before that, or including some of his older races with Stewart-Haas, at 17.7. So you can actually see that he has a 4-spot improvement as time has gone on. So it's, lead 50 laps, probably have closer to 20. As I said, it's about a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio for laps led to fast laps. If he finishes in 5th, it's 56.5. At $9,000, you're probably getting close. It's probably 60 points to be optimal, but it's not going to be awful. I don't love the Briscoe play. I'll probably run him maybe right at 10%, maybe 15%. I said I run 40 lineups, so if I'm running 10%, I'm going to run him in 4 lineups. 15% would be 6 lineups. So somewhere between 4 and 6 of my lineups, I'll run as a Chase Briscoe style lineup because honestly, he'll probably have about that amount of percentage owned because he consistently has gotten the pole but has not finished super well. So he's burned a lot of people. So I think his ownership will be slightly down because of that. But, I mean, he could easily go out and lead 100 laps. It's a 350 lap race. Chris Buescher, next in line here, 8,700. Are they back to play baseball again? Oh, yeah, I guess it fully. No, this is replays. Never mind. Chris Buescher, 8,700, starting in 27th. I think they postponed the game until tomorrow. Starting in 27th. 11th in single lap, 13th in 10 lap consecutive average. He had a decent race last year in 18th, and he actually was running up and around the front. He actually ended up having either a tire go down or a slight issue last year and still came back and rallied to an 18th place finish. I actually like the RFK cars for this week more than I like the Penske cars. And I do like Blaney and Cindric. I just don't know if I'd like the Joe Logano play. His practice speeds were a little bit more erratic than I'd like to see. So I could see a potential fade off, but honestly, a 27th place Busher when honestly he probably should finish at least 15th or better. That alone, there's enough place differential here that I'd like the Chris Busher play. He's got more room to run. So this is much more of a I would put Chris Busher as a cash play. So who was that was asking? Scott Harris was asking for cash plays. I think Chris Busher is a good cash play. Pretty safe. That's what you're kind of looking for. You're looking for safe plays. And at $8,700, you get a little bit of salary relief. So run a Chase Elliott, Chris Busher as your first two drivers, and we'll continue to build from there. I think are both fairly good. In fact, you can just take a Ross Chastain right with him. But I didn't mean to click that. But you know, to get into the optimal, would Chris Busher get up to 8th? It's going to be close. Probably needs to get to 5th. Yeah, 5th place Chris Busher definitely would be a GPP type play for a tournament. Now, because of his starting spot, he's going to be probably 18 to 22%, probably 20% owned. Same thing with Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain had a very, very dominant race earlier today in the 9 car. $8,500. Starting in 28th, he was 18th and 16th in practice. He's got a 10.8 average finish for the 5 races that we're comparing to. Not much in the top 10, but all 5 in the top 20 with a 12.8 average running position. Finished 11th in this race last year. Practice speeds were, other than this little hiccup he had here, he was right at or below average or close to Kyle Larson's speed. So lots of room to run for Ross Chastain if he just goes and gets to his average finish of 12th, 49.25. Probably not quite. He's going to have to finish a little bit better than average, get up to 9th, 8th probably. Yeah, so an 8th place Ross Chastain and a 7th place Chris Busher, along with a top 3 for Chase Elliott, and you've got yourself a pretty good cash lineup build from there. All right, Kyle Busch. We've talked quite a bit about Kyle Busch earlier, and honestly, I am more scared of Kyle Busch starting in 37th than I am of Ross Chastain or Chris Busher starting 27th, 28th, 10 spots better. Because number one, Busch is going to have to go to a backup car. 2, if he struggles in practice and has to go to a backup car with those bumps, it makes me even more nervous. He's got an average finish of 22. He finished 35th in this race last year after some mechanical something broke in the left rear of his car last year. Just, it scares the bejesus out of me. And honestly, he and Chase Elliott flew to Bristol tonight to watch the baseball game and got interviewed, and then have to fly back to Iowa. Now they have private jets, not a big deal, but literally at 9:00 tonight, they were both at Bristol for the baseball game. Now the race isn't until 4:30 tomorrow afternoon, not a big deal, but wow, okay. Heck, Kyle Larson's probably out running a dirt race somewhere in the Midwest. So, but yeah, he crushed the wall after getting really loose in turn 1 and overcorrecting and destroying his car. If he gets to his average finish of 18th, that's 46.25. He's got plenty of room to run, but how often do we see Kyle Busch go and get a 10th place finish? Not all that often. His average finish over the last 10 ovals is 15.2. with a best finish of 8th. His worst finish of 25th. I'll have some ownership. I'm not saying it, but I'm probably going to be underweight on the field, where I think he's probably going to be 35 to 40%, could be on the upward side of 45% owned. I will probably be closer to 15 to 20% owned on Kyle Busch. I'm a fade. Josh Berry at $8,000, starting in 12th. This style track typically lines up really, really well for Josh Berry's racing style. His average finish is not bad at 14.4 for the 5 races that we're comparing to. He finished 7th in this race last year, but he was not that good in practice. He was kind of like Joe Logano, 33rd and 31st. And if we look at it, it's as erratic as Joe Logano's. And he only really got to 17 laps of practice speed. So that's the little bit of concerning part. But typically he does really, really well at this style track. Like I said, if we look at a larger race sample, the last 10 on short tracks, it's 17.9. The last 10 on ovals is 22.9 for an average of 20. Starting in 12th, that's not going to be super great. So he might be starting a little too far up, especially with his erraticness of his practice. But I don't mind running a little bit of Josh Berry. It is a little risky, I'll be perfectly honest. And for him to get the points that we need him to get, he's going to need to get to probably better than 5th. He's probably going to, so definitely a top 5, and he would probably need to lead some laps. Let's put 40 laps led. I mean, that probably at $8,000 gets you close, as this is also would be closer to probably 15. So 62.75 with a leading 40 laps. I mean, that's honestly a kind of a big ask. When your best finish on short tracks is 3rd over the last 10, yeah, it's a little tough. So I could see a fade off of Josh Berry. I would put him in the bucket of I will play like 2 to 4 lineups with Josh Berry in it. Probably closer to 2. Maybe 18 laps led. You think that's the call for Josh Berry? 18 laps led, huh? All right. 57.25. Is he going to finish in 5th too? Are we calling the shots? Call the shot. So that would probably put him at like 7, probably like 6 fast laps. 53.2. Like 6. All right, we'll give him a 6th. Starting in 12th, it's 51.25. Well, to make the optimal, he's going to need to get closer to 60 points. So, even with all that being said, he's probably not going to make the optimal. Makes the top 15, but probably not going to make the optimal. So, not a complete waste, but not a. It might end up being a. And this even would probably scare me a little bit for cash, to be perfectly honest. It's kind of a risky play. And if you're playing cash, you want to kind of stay away from the risk. Ty Gibbs, $7,800, starting in 20th. And I would love to say Ty Gibbs would be a good cash play, but I mean, his average finish is 19.8 for the 5 races that we're comparing to. He was 14th and 9th in practice. Finished 25th in this race last year. If we looked at his practice speeds, they're all perfectly fine. Not quite as fast as Larson or probably Bell or some of those. But starting in 20th, probably pretty respectable. He's faster than average, and he's qualified a little bit worse than average. And some of his practice time is getting skewed by whatever this was at the end. An average of 18th starting in 20th, man, only gives you 29.25 points. Ty Gibbs is going to need to get to 5th or 6 to probably be close and probably have like 10 fast laps would probably put him close. Yeah, the average finishes kind of scare me. I mean, his best at short tracks is third. Um, I think the pit crew falls back after winning the $1 million last week. He gets a pit road penalty. Gibbs is out for me, unfortunately. I don't think that's not a bad read on it. Yeah, I think Ty Gibbs has kind of gotten over the hump of finishing in the mid 20s. And I think he's kind of worked his way into eighth being good to 12th, maybe 15th. So I think it's a huge improvement from where he was at the beginning of the year. I think they need to find one more level of speed to be there with Christopher Bell and Briscoe and Denny Hamlin. So they're close. They're just not quite there yet. They're more along the lines of slightly better than John Hunter Nemechek and slightly better than Eric Jones. Not much though, because Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek are actually running fairly well this year. I want to see him qualify bad for Daytona so we can root for him to miss the wrecks and grab a win. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely would love to see Ty Gibbs win. I think it's more than due time. I think, when he first came into Cup, he was somebody I liked to root against. But he's started to show some maturity, and I think, a lot of that had to do with his dad passing away and those types of things. He had kind of had to grow up a little bit, or grow up a lot, actually. And I think he's been humbled by some of the issues and problems that they've had with the 54 group. And he's kind of had to rally around and figure it out. And I think they're kind of on the uphill swing. I think once he gets a win or two, he's going to probably be really dangerous and really good. He's a high quality driver. Is he a Kyle Larson or Christopher Bell or Denny? I don't think so yet. Too early to tell. Possibly though. So yeah, I'm probably a fade off of Ty Gibbs. Brad Keselowski, $7,600, starting in 5th. Is this Brad Keselowski's race to win and make the playoffs? I tell you what, over the last 3 to 4 weeks, 5 weeks, other than the road courses, the oval speed for Brad has been vastly improved. Gibbs and Hocevar are the next gen. Oh yeah, absolutely. And honestly, if they're not careful, they're very, very quickly going to find out what Corey Heim and Connor Zilich are, because if they don't figure it out and those two boys get up into the Cup Series, Heim and Zilich, if they figure out this next gen car, are really, really fast. And they're really clean race car drivers. Brad will get caught up into something and wheel it home for 12th. Okay. Pope's calling the 12th place shot. I'm calling for a top 3 for Brad. I really like the RFK cars this week. Why? I don't know. I mean, his practice beats really aren't. He had a couple laps in here where he was really fast, but I mean, other than that, I don't know. It's a gut call. I always call it, if I'm going to make a gut call, I'm making the gut call. No, I'm not going to run a ton of Brad. I'm going to have some ownership in Brad. It's not going to be a complete fade because, I mean, starting in 5th, he's going to need to finish top 3. He's going to need to lead 35 laps and have, 12 fast laps. Yeah, so, I mean, that would do it. He doesn't even need to finish first, but finish in 2nd, lead 35 laps with 12 fast laps gets you to real close to being in that optimal spot. You think Priest is going to be ahead of Brad? I love the Priest call, but Priest is starting in 33rd. I think DraftKings points, that's an easy call. I'm running Priest probably in more lineups than I probably should. No, what I'm saying is I will probably take Brad as a sleeper for somewhere between 10 to 15% of my lineups, so somewhere between 4 and 6. Um, but I could see Brad having a really, really good race. Kosun Hosabar starting in 7th. Chaos. Carson Chaos Hosabar. $7,400 starting in 7th. If his practice speeds were a lot better and not as erratic, I could see a shot here, but I think he falls back and he ends up probably getting about what he got last year, which is 14th. He was 16th and 21st in practice, and as we just looked at, practice speeds were not all that great. And there's more chance of bad than good. I'm going to be a fade off of Carson Hocevar. So. Now, there is easily a potential that he goes out and wins and leads 50 laps. And if he does it, good on him. I'm just not willing to take the risk, but we'll put it on the calculator and see what that gets us. 72.5. Yep. How possible do I think that is? I think it's probably about a 3% shot that he does that. So not very good. Bubba Wallace, $7,200 starting in 15th. Pope, did your daughter fall asleep yet? Bubba Wallace, $7,200 starting in 15th. Our Brickyard 400 winner. Congrats, Bubba Wallace. Talked about him earlier. Don't need to recap all that, but he was 2nd in single lap, 11th in 10 lap. I mean, there's a little bit of momentum behind Bubba Wallace here. His practice speeds actually were not too bad until the tire wear kind of fell into place and got a little bit erratic, but he fired off really well. Much better than average. If he gets his average finish of 16th, that's not going to be enough. He's going to need to probably get to at least 5th, 51.5. But if we look at the short track average and the oval average, his average finish is about 16th. So he's got some real heavy lifting to do at this point. I'm going to be a fade off of Bubba Wallace. I just think the hangover is going to be real for him this week. And I'm going to fade off of the momentum because he's like, okay, I made the playoffs. I don't care. I'm going to go out and have a little bit of fun. And maybe that turns into a win. I'm going to put it right there with Carson Hocevar, like about a 3% chance of that. So I'll be a fade off of Bubba Wallace. Not a complete 0, but I'm going to fade off. I just gave her a warm bottle and she's asleep currently. Oh, that's so sweet. I miss when mine was that small. No, I never had a little girl, but I had a little boy. He's not little anymore. He's taller than I am, and yeah, he's 14. It's nuts. So enjoy the time, Pope. It goes by in a hurry. No, every year's been just as much fun, just different. I just need to transfer to the crib like Tom Cruise Mission Impossible. Yep. Yeah, 'cause you definitely don't want to have her sleep there all night. Your arm will be cramped so bad tomorrow. I've had that happen. Alex Bowman, $7,100 starting in 16th. He was actually really good in practice, 7th and 5th. An average finish of 17.6 with no top 5s to top 10s. He finished 8th in this race last year. Practice speeds were respectable. Starting in 16th, you've got some room to run. He's going to need to get solid finishes. He needs a win without anybody else winning, because if somebody else wins, he could be potentially in trouble of making the playoffs. Too many people win. Tyler Reddick's going to be in trouble of making the playoffs. Right now, they're both in pretty good safe spots as long as no new winners happen. Yeah, I mean, his average finish, short track and ovals, is 25. That's ridiculously bad for a Hendrick car. But let's just put it on the calculator. Let's give him a fourth. Takes him to 53.5. $7,100, that's pretty close. I mean, you're also talking about a Hendrick Motorsports driver that's value at $7,100. His price tag has just dropped and dropped and dropped. So I could see the argument to fade off of Alex Bowman. I'm probably going to have him about 15% of my lineups. Ryan Preece, $7,000, starting in 33rd. God. He's only got one top 5 out of the 5 races that we're comparing to, which is crazy because this style track is absolutely in Ryan Preece's wheelhouse. It's just baffling. He finished 27th in this race here last year. Now, he was in Stewart-Haas Racing Equipment. I get it. But starting in 33rd, I just don't. I mean, let's just say he gets up to 19th. His practice speeds were like Joey Logano's. They were just bad. I'm hoping they figure out whatever. If he gets to 19th, it's 40.25. I think it's 15 points too shy. He's going to need to get to 12th. Would get him probably there. I think it's doable. It's a little bit of a gut shot, but it's doable. So I'll have some Ryan Preece because it is a pretty good place differential. Kind of middle of the pack on pricing. I think he's probably going to have some ownership though. So, you know, it's not a sneaky pick. Where Austin Cindric absolutely may end up being a sneaky pick. This also could line up. I would put Austin Dillon as a solid 15 to 20% chance to win this race tomorrow. Absolutely the fastest Ford. If you're making a bet on who the fastest Ford for tomorrow is going to be, and the best finisher, Austin Cindric could easily be that play. 6,900. He was 12th and 12th in practice, but these practice speeds are really, really good. He did not slip at all. Almost all actually, they all are under 24-second lap times. Not even one. Even the one that gets a little bit close was still sub 24. That is a super well balanced car. He's hitting his mark, he's hitting his lines. He's as fast, maybe not quite as fast on some of the little bit of runs that Kyle Larson had, but he's easily going to finish top 10, probably top 5. And if that's the case, I could see him getting a win. But his average finishes are about 20th when we look at short tracks and ovals. So that's the scary part about all of it. It's definitely going to be a gut shot for Austin Cindric to potentially get the win. But these are the type of races where you just go, how the heck did that happen? I didn't see that happening at all. And a lot of times when I see Austin Cindric qualify really well, I don't see practice speeds like this. This is very reminiscent of what he did at Gateway, Wide, whatever it is. The race at Gateway, where he won last year. Where he just ran third all race. Started in third, ran third, and then Ryan Blaney had a mistake, I think it was with William Byron, and Austin Cindric was there to capitalize and got the win. This is very reminiscent. I feel that Austin Cindric could easily be a sneaky pick. So, what does that do if he is able to get, let's say he finishes in second. Let's say he does lead some laps. Let's say he leads 35 laps. That'll give him about 12 fast laps. 58.15. Well, at 6,900, he's only got to get to 50 to probably be optimal. I don't think that's completely out of the realm of possibility. Even if he finishes where he starts, it's 54. Yeah, no, I'm not going to go super heavy on it, but I'm probably going to have at least, probably about the same as Brad. I'll probably have, if I'm going to run 4 Brad Keselowski's. I'll probably run 6 Austin Cedrics. Gregson, sneaky play. Maybe. Decent finishes at short tracks. Finished starting 31st. Maybe a pivot off of Priest. Yeah, but the problem is, I mean, Priest has had a little bit of bad luck. Noah has had, like, the worst luck. But we've got Noah coming up here very shortly. Got a couple more sneaky picks to get to. I don't know if Gregson's going to be a sneaky play other than he just, right now, just has not been running well. And if you think he might run well, could be the sneaky part of the play. But Daniel Suarez, 6,800, starting at 26. It was 27th and 28th in practice, 17th and 16th average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to, with only 2 top 10s, no top 5s. I mean, starting 26, he's got some room to run. Practice speeds, honestly, were about average. And he didn't do a whole lot of those. So we get to the 20th place finish starting in 27th. I mean, honestly, that's probably about as high as I'd want to go. It's only 31 points. We're still 20 points outside the optimal, and he's not really cutting the top 15. So I could see with the starting spot for Suarez, is he starting 26 or 27? I don't know. Either way, I don't think it's not going to change things too much. Yeah, I mean, if anything, it makes it a little bit worse. But, you know, if he can get to 12th, that puts him close. So Daniel Suarez, top 10 would get you there. I just don't. Nothing. This is a 20th place practice speed at best. AJ Allmendinger, 6,600. Just like Austin Cindric, the weeks that we go, what? How did AJ start in the top 10 and finish in the top 10? Didn't see that coming. Well, this is how AJ starts in the top 10 and finishes in the top 10. He'll start in 9th, and he'll finish in 9th, or pretty close to it. No, none of the stats are there for this, to be perfectly honest. But one of AJ's best oval tracks is Martinsville. Martinsville and Iowa are very different in a lot of ways, but it's pretty heavy banking. Can get real loose on corner entry, can be really loose on corner exit. A lot of that fits into what guys that do really well on road courses will end up doing. And honestly, he's almost as consistent and good as Austin Cindric on practice. Slightly slower, but he's better than average across the board. I mean, he's starting better than average, of course, but you know, if he starts in 9th, finishes in 9th, or let's say he finishes one spot better in 8th, 39.25. It's not going to be enough, but if he happens to pull a top 5, 45.25. I'm not sure he has much more than 5 fast laps, so we'll put him to 8th. It's a risky call, but this will be definitely in the ownership world will be under 10%, could be potentially sub 7%. It's really tough to get sub 5% unless you're Cody Ware or Joey Gase. So I mean, honestly, I think that on the low level, it's about a 4 to 7% ownership is going to be on the low side. But I think AJ might be that low. So a little bit sneaky. I'm not going to be heavy on it at all. I'm just saying I will still run a very, very small amount of AJ, probably somewhere between 2 to 4. So 5 to 10%. So I'll probably be about even on the field. But I'm just saying it's not a complete fade. SVG, I'm just going to fade it. Congrats on him on getting his first oval win, though, at Charlotte in the Legends cars. He finally got an oval win. He beat up on a bunch of 15-year-olds. So I'm not sure how much of a brag that is, but either way. Practice speeds were all over the place. So I don't see where Shane gets better than a 27th place finish, which is 9 points. So we'll just move on to Austin Dillon here at 6,300, starting in 18th. Austin got to run the Xfinity race, so he did get some lap time today. He was 20th and 22nd, starting in 18th. He finished in 19th in this race last year. His practice speeds were slightly better than average, but he's starting at about average. So, yeah, I just don't know if there's much more than 18th is his average finish. He's starting in 18th. It's 26 points. I mean, if you think Austin Dillon can go and crack a 11th place finish, that really doesn't even cut. He's going to need to finish top 10. I just don't. I mean, he won Richmond last year. So I will give him that. And even if he didn't boot Joe Logano and Denny Hamlin out of the way, he still would have had a top 3 finish. He was really good all race. So I just don't know if that's going to be there tomorrow for Austin Dillon. Possible, doubtful though. John Hunter Nemechek, 6,200. The Toyotas are pretty decently fast. John Hunter Nemechek was 23rd and 15th in practice. Averages are not great, but we don't have a whole lot of data to go on when it comes to the 5 races that we're comparing to. Practice speeds were, I mean, that's probably about as close to average as you can get, and he's starting worse than average, about 10 spots worse than average. So if he can just make it up to 17th or 18th, I mean, 21st will get you right at 30 points. And if you make it up to, let's say 15th, that's 42.9. You're getting close to 45-point range at that point at 6,200. There's enough value here. And John Hunter has been finishing better than his average recently. So I'll have some shots on John Hunter. I definitely like the John Hunter play. And I don't mind the Eric Jones play, even though all of his stats are up at or about where his starting spot is. Now, Legacy and the Toyotas have been running much better. He was 24th and 17th in practice. And that's pretty good. Probably a little bit better than average. He's starting a little bit worse than average. So he's right there with John Hunter. John Hunter's got a little bit more room to run, a little bit more ceiling. Eric Jones's average is about 20th. That's 29 points. That's not going to cut it. Let's get him up to 13th, 12th. He's going to need to finish 12th. And what did I say? John Hunter needed to get to 15th. So a 15th or 16th place finish for John Hunter plays, and a 12th place finish for Eric Jones plays. I'll take some shots on both of them. I'm not going to be super heavy on either one, but I'll have some ownership. Michael McDowell, $6,000, starting in 13th. I think he outkicked his coverage, to be perfectly honest. He practiced 28th and 24th. His average finish looks like to be somewhere in the 22 range. He finished 23rd in this race last year. His practice speeds were about average. Yeah. But starting in 13th, it's not starting where John Hunter's starting. 29th, I said, for John Hunter? Yeah. It's starting in 13th. If he finishes where he starts, it's not going to be enough, and his average finish is 23rd. So there's just not enough room there. 31.8 points if he finishes where he starts. All right. Pope called out Noah Gragson. Let's put him on the clock. Let's put him on the calculator and see. $5,900 starting in 31st. Practice speeds were 34th. He did not do a 10-lap consecutive run. Oops. And if you've been struggling, you need to run every lap that you possibly can in practice. Just my pure thoughts about it. Eric Jones, the Legacy, used to be the worst on it. They were running miserably. And they would literally go out and practice for 10 minutes and they would quit. I'm like, no, you need to go and run until they tell you get off the damn track. Noah Gragson ran 21 laps. There were cars that ran close to 50 laps. Unless you broke something, you should be out on the track. And I think they actually did scrape the wall. But Either way, you get out and practice. It's killing me with Noah. Because I'm actually a Noah fan. I think he's a lot of fun to watch. He just doesn't give a poop. Um, and I love it. But this doesn't cut it for practice. Figure out why you're having the issues. Your teammates aren't this bad, and he honestly is a better driver than his teammates. I don't get it. Um, I mean, yeah, I get you, Pope, but I mean, there's just the 5 races that we're comparing to. He's got an average finish of 19.2. He did finish 16th in this race last year. Even if we take him up to his finish from last year, which is 16th, which would be a bang up day. I mean, his best finish in the last 10 ovals is 10th. His best finish on short tracks is 11th. So we're not trying to make a record here. We can just go to 16th. 42.9 at 5,900. Yeah, it plays. But you also have to. There is a little bit of this whole. He's been just one of the unluckiest drivers in the garage this year. Baby is down. All right. Good job, Dad. Way to get the baby to sleep. Does she sleep through the night most of the time? But good job. We're all very proud of you. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 5,700 starting in 30th. He was 32nd in single lap, 26th in 10 lap in practice. His average finish is 23rd. And he did finish in 5th in this race last year. And if you watched the race last year, the reason he finished 5th was absolutely all strategy. Ricky still held. It actually improved on some of his strategy. But the reason he got out there was strategy. And last year, this team was all about, we'll run the most crazy strategies. When they pit, we're not going to. When they're not pitting, we're going to. When they take 4 tires, we're taking 2. If they're taking 2, we're not taking any. They literally just did everything opposite in that race last year, and it absolutely worked. She does, but she didn't nap much today and was up after Mama got home, and teething didn't help, but she should be okay. Well, good. Well, we all wish you the best of luck that she sleeps until morning. And Ricky's practice speeds they're okay. Do you think they get the opportunity to make some crazy strategy calls? If you do, he did have a really good race last year. It's honestly not going to take a whole lot. Starting in 30th at $5,700, realistically, you got to get to 40 or 41 points. And his average finish is 23rd. He's almost there just with his averages. He's going to need probably a 17th place finish for Ricky Stenhouse when he's averaging 22, 23. Possible. In fact, I'm willing to take shots on it. So I definitely do not mind the Ricky Stenhouse play. Am I going to be any more than probably 15% ownership on Ricky? Probably not. But it's a smattering of Ricky Stenhouse's, Noah Gregson's, Eric Jones's, and John Hunter's. And there's a couple other drivers down here that will potentially take some shots on. Zane Smith is not an awful call. It's not a great call. He's starting in 23rd. He was 30th and 29th. Average finish of 23.4. He finished 31st in this race last year. His practice speeds really are not that great. Starting that far up. I could see being a fade off of this. Even if you get to your average, it's 22.35. I could see the argument that Zane sometimes comes up and surprises us and could be kind of a sleeper. It's going to definitely be a sleeper. For me, I'm probably not going to have a whole lot of ownership in Zane. Todd Gillen starting in 34th at $5,500. 31st in single lap, 27th in 10 lap. Lots of room to run for Todd Gillen. What's his practice speeds look like? They didn't do a whole lot of practices, kind of like Noah Gregson. I don't know. What is it up with front row? They trying to save fuel cost or something? I don't know. You only get one set of tires. Burn them down. So, At least Zane made it to lap 22. How many total laps did he run? 31. He ran 31. Noah Gregson ran 21. Todd Gillen ran 24. And you had some drivers do close to 50. And they want to know why their team's not doing better. Well, maybe if you got out and did your damn job and did some practice. Either way, starting in 34th, there's tons of room to run, especially when you've got a 19th place average finish. I mean, hell, all Todd Gillen's got to do is hit his average. And it's 40 points at 5,500. Definitely will keep Todd Gillen on the short list of drivers for value and for good place differential. And the surprise of all surprise drivers, and it's super risky, Justin Haley, starting in 10th. Did the 7 car hit on something in the last 2 weeks? Because they were pretty good at Indy last week. And now, once again, we're turning around and he was 13th in single lap. He did 45 laps of practice. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Front row, learn from this. Justin Haley has sucked and been awful all year long. Goes out and does 45 laps of practice. 13th in single lap. 8th in 10 lap consecutive average. And we look at his practice speeds, they look phenomenal. Better than average across the board, starting in 10th. I will definitely take some shots on Justin Haley. Hopefully he doesn't get his average finish at 23rd, because that's only 7 points. But what happens if he finishes 10th? Probably not quite enough. 8th gets him real close. If he can get 5 fast laps at $5,300, it's 40.25 points. Why not? Go get you some, Justin Haley. I could easily see a crazy scenario. You could run an AJ Allmendinger and a Justin Haley, and they literally finish where they start and make or be close to the optimal lineup, and nobody else is going to have them. They will be super, super low owned. Do you run both of them together? That's super, super risky. I would run one and I would run the other in some lineups. Where I do not want to go is Cole Custer starting in 19th. Only 24 laps of practice, and his practice speeds were not good. Worse than average, and he's pretty much starting in the average spot, 19th. So if he gets his average, it's 26th, it's 9 points. I don't have any interest there. Ty Dillon starting in 32nd. He's got an average finish of 23.7. His practice speeds were 19th and 23rd. Okay, practice speeds were pretty good. They were pretty erratic, but they were total work 19th and 23rd. If he gets his average finish for short tracks and ovals is 22nd. Well, if he can get to the average, it's 30.9. He's going to need to get a little bit better than where he finishes on average. But 18th gets him real close to being optimal. So I could see a couple scenarios where you run a Ty Dillon, and you got 5 drivers and you've got $6,000 left over. Run it in 4 different lineups. Run Ty Dillon as your 6th driver. Run AJ as your 6th driver. Run Justin Haley as your 6th driver. And let it run. Super sneaky. Ty Dillon's not going to be super sneaky, but AJ and Justin Haley absolutely will. Still catching up from the last few minutes. No, you're fine. We're just starting to cruise along here. Riley Herbst, 4,900, starting 24th, absolutely outkicked his coverage. He was 24th and 25th in practice, and if we look at his speeds, that's a heart attack happening right there, all over the board. Just inconsistent. His average finish is 29th. It's 8 points. I have no interest in Riley Herbst. There's nothing on here that tells me anything different. Cody Ware, he was 25th in single lap, 32nd in 10 lap. Did 24 laps, about where Todd Gillen and the rest of the front row practice, but I mean, he's different car, different manufacturer, different everything. But I mean, same thing. Practice speeds are all over the place. Unless you think this is going to be a super high attrition rate, which I mean, we could see 12 to 15 cars, but you could also see Cody Ware being one of those cars. Um, Starting in 35th, there's plenty of room to run. If he gets his average finish at 31st, it's 14 points. It's going to need to be. If he gets to 20th, that's close. Going to need to get a top 20. Yeah. He's never finished in the top 20 in the last 10 races of either short track or ovals. So good luck with that. Okay, so like I said when we looked at this at the very, very beginning, Justin Haley and AJ Allmendinger are scary to take. Sometimes if you're playing in a large field GPP, you need scary. We talked about that in last week's video. But Justin Haley and AJ Allmendinger will be sub 10% owned and have the potential of getting top 10 finishes. And if they do that, you could easily separate yourself absolutely from the rest of the field. Now, the rest of your lineup's going to need to be spot on too. You're going to need a Christopher Bell, you're going to need a Kyle Larson, and Kyle Larson to go win and dominate, along with a Ross Chastain, in those types. So you're going to have to line it up just right. But if Justin Haley or AJ end up finishing in the top 10, I will put money on it that they would be optimal. So, but guys, I have no interest in. I wouldn't even put Joey Gase on the scale. I didn't even look at his practice speeds. He was last. I have no interest in Joey Gase. They just don't have the equipment. They're not going to be there. SVG starting too far up. Cole Custer starting too far up. Zane Smith, to be honest, is starting further up than I want to see. I mean, there's always that potential that Zane pops one off, but I don't like it. Nothing in the stats or practices show me that I should like Zane Smith. Riley Herbst starting from 24th, absolutely do not like that. Mac McDowell starting too far up, and to be honest, so is Carson Hocevar. Brad Keselowski is an absolute just gut shot. Probably won't play well. Austin Cindric's in the same boat, but absolutely could separate yourself from the field. They'll be definitely sub 15, maybe sub 10% owned. Josh Berry could have some ownership because a lot of people know that he's pretty good on these short tracks, but I actually like the Austin Cindric play more than I like the Josh Berry play. Briscoe, he's going to have to go out and lead 50 to 60 laps and finish in the top 5. Very possible. They have done very, very well. They always kind of have a hiccup in the middle of the race, and then they end up fighting back. So don't get overly concerned if he does go out and leads the beginning stage 1, has an issue in stage 2, but then battles back for a top 5 finish in stage 3. That'll still put him very, very close to being in or around the optimal. But Chase Elliott, I mean, pretty much most of the Hendrick drivers should be in really good spots and have no problem taking them. Ty Dillon's in a really good spot. Ty Gillen, he did more practice, but I mean, literally he's going to just need to get to his average of like 21st, and he'll be very, very close to being optimal at 5,500. Do not like the Austin Dillon play. Out of all the Hendrick drivers, Alex Bowman actually scares me the most of all of them, and he's starting further back. But Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., absolutely in play. John Hunter Nemechek is in play. Joey's practice speeds really, really scared me. Ross Chastain, I definitely like. Chris Buescher, I like. Kyle Busch, I think, is going to be super heavily owned, and I just do not like the play. Nothing about it smells right. I could see, because he's starting in 37th, to take him, but I'm going to be a fade. I'm going to be less than 15% owned with Kyle Busch. Ryan Preece, I absolutely like. His practice speeds were junk. Absolute junk. That's why he's starting 33rd. They'll figure it out. He'll get a better finish than that. I just don't know how far up he'll actually get, though. Bubba Wallace, I think he's going to be hungover from last week. Not literally, but I mean, maybe. But I think he'll probably end up finishing 15th, which isn't going to be enough for DraftKings. I don't think it's going to be an awful race for Bubba. I just don't think it's going to be the home run that we think that he needs to do for DraftKings. He's going to need a top 5. Daniel Suarez, I just don't like it. Ty Gibbs, I just don't think he gets far enough up there. So either way, it should be a great race. The weather is going to be absolutely beautiful in Iowa. It's going to be very different than what they had last year. Last year was in the high 80s, low 90s, and that was after the sunset. The before was close to 100. So it was much hotter, much slicker. New pavement gave them the ability to have a little bit more grip. This year, they're going to have a little bit cooler temperatures. The speeds will be up. The tire wear is going to... They have a new tire that they're going to have at this track. The bump in turn 1's pretty risky. It should be a great race. It's going to be an interesting race. Let's just put it that way. We'll just leave it there. Hope, I'm not sure if you completely caught up or not, but congrats on getting your little girl down for bed. Way to be there for the dad award. We all appreciate good dads. So good luck to everyone, and I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Almost at 150 subscribers. We've had a really good run. I think I had close to almost 500 views last week, so definitely things are heading in the right direction. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. And next weekend, we go to Watkins Glen. I'll be here for Saturday night. But the following week, we'll be at Richmond, and I will absolutely be at the Richmond race, which means it's also a Saturday night race. So we will be doing the broadcast on Saturday morning, probably 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Take on Bowman. I didn't catch it. The Bowman call, I don't mind. I don't love it. We'll go back and look at it real quick. He's starting 16th. He was good in practice. All the Hendrick guys were very good in practice. Starting in 16th, but his average for the 5 races is pretty much 17th. He did finish 8th. So, I mean, all indications on this page look pretty good. Practice speeds look pretty good. I'm not sure what happened, but he's definitely got some weird averages going on. His best finish is 3rd on ovals, 7th on short tracks. He's going to need to get up to a 4th place finish without leading any laps. I don't mind the play. I just don't love the play. So probably 15% ownership. Probably about even on the field would be my guess. So I think that was the take on Bowman. It's don't mind it, don't hate it, don't love it. You know, he's gonna need to do something though. I do know that, or he's gonna be in real jeopardy, especially if we get another new winner. So that's my take. Elliott maybe 15%. I think Elliott more percentage than that. Where was Elliott starting in 8th? Yeah. I could get behind that, but Elliott was also... I mean, all the Hendrick guys were really good in practice. You could literally almost throw a blanket over them. They all were really good in practice. So, yeah, 15% for Elliott. I could even see going to 20%, but, yeah, I'm already 15%. So, all right. Well, I'm going to go get some sleep. We're over 2 hours for the video. 2 hours and 18 minutes. But I appreciate everybody tuning in. Pope, it's been good chatting with you. I'm not sure where everyone else was tonight. I mean, we did have 106 viewers, so view count was pretty high up. I don't know where Philly Man is. Typically by this time of the year, he's usually hit the brick wall, and he's ready for football. It was fun. I appreciate the information. You're more than welcome, Pope. Hopefully you can take down that bag for tomorrow. Good luck either way, and we'll see you next Saturday, and then the following week will be next Saturday morning. So, and then we've got Daytona after that. But I get to go to a race. Yay! I live about 15 minutes from the Richmond race. So, we'll see you guys next week. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.
He still takes the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkers. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job.